Welcome back, friends of G&K. We're here in late September to talk about our G&K Pro Farmer Tour that we try to do every year.
Yep.
So the point of this video is to kind of summarize our findings. So first of all, we don't like to go as early as what the Pro Farmer Tour does because a lot of that crop, particularly corn, is still in the blister stage or dough stage, and a lot can happen. So to get a final assessment under the crop, that can be a little misleading. So we purposely wait till September to start our own little tour to get a handle on the crop. The Pro Farmer Tour had Indiana at 194, Ohio at 192. We've seen yields on both sides of that. To be brutally honest with you, as much as I hate to admit it, those are probably pretty good averages with our average of what we just found.
I agree. Really, some of the highest we were finding was the 218s, 220s. That was some of the best stuff we were finding. A couple fields where it would be a little bit better, especially under irrigation. But like Greg said, most dry land fields, I would be really happy with what we found if I ended up with 194.
Rob, how long have our guys been doing it? Which, first of all, I got to give a lot of credit to Nick and Luke. They have been pounding it out, covering a big footprint in Indiana, Ohio, up to Michigan to try to get a handle on this crop. So Rob, how long have we been working at this now?
Sure, well this is the second year we've done this, and the guys have been at it for about 2 weeks now. So we pick a different region every single day. They go there, they look at 3 or 4 fields for 5 or 6 different clients in that area. So you're getting an idea of everything from 20-inch corn to 30-inch corn to anhydrous to 28 to no-till to tillage. So it's just an idea. We try to come up with an average or an idea of what that region's going to be like, report it back to that client. It gives us some idea of what to expect too before we hit the field.
If one of your farms was randomly selected to be part of the G&K Tour, you would get a report on that. So USDA has Indiana and Ohio particularly as record yields.
Yep.
And the garden spots of the Midwest more or less. So we just want to kind of get a handle on where our finish is.
Yeah.
Now remember from our last video, we are basically in one of the driest periods from August 15th to today to finish this crop out, which isn't a good finish. So we're just trying to get a handle on where our crop's really going to fall. So while we feel there's a good crop out there, it's not particularly the greatest crop, and there's a lot of variability. If you watched our last video, remember we really talked about the unevenness in corn and the variability in rows around, and so it's really difficult to get an exact handle on yield, so we see a lot of that in our checks.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that stood out to me in the last 2 weeks that these guys kept reporting back was how many 14 to 16 rows around. I don't know if I really have noticed or seen that as often as I did this year. A lot of 14 arounds. I think I attribute that back to the June being really dry when that's happening and being set. It's taking a toll. That's part of the reason why I think we're not seeing the awesome yields. It's still good, but not awesome. Well, we've had a couple guys hit the field so far with some early beans, early corn. You've been telling me for a couple weeks now, what do you think is going to be the best? The early stuff, mid stuff, or late stuff?
Well, so in terms of beans, what we are seeing in terms of our field checks and our estimation, the early beans coming off have actually been surprisingly well.
Pretty good.
Our suspicion is as the time goes on and the fuller mature beans, we actually expect those to not be as good. So those will tend to taper off. They're still going to be okay. I just don't think we're going to set any records.
Right. Yep.
Corn is going to be a wild card. Bottom line is corn's just going to be all over the board. So we have a good crop, just not a great crop.
And at this point too, we've been talking, you know, would a rain at this point on September 22nd make any difference? We kind of don't believe it would. So
yeah, right now we're kind of out of the window of help to rain.
Yeah.
Right now we're going to need rain to get wheat out of the ground probably, but in order to help this crop, there's very little yet to help. It could help some, but mostly it won't. So I want to touch quick on crop health and disease. Okay. So there's really 2 things going on this year that's kind of a little bit of an anomaly, if you will. First of all, in beans, we've seen higher incidences, probably for a long time, of what?
White mold?
White mold. White mold's been everywhere, and it'll be surprising. There'll be fields that you may enter that have big areas and big pockets that are shockingly low. and you'll have fields that you see no incidence of it, but we've seen more white mold than we've probably seen in a number of years. I'd have to think back when we've seen this much pressure of white mold, which came from our July and early August rains. That just that onset the sclerotinia, and that's why we got white mold.
It's not going to help our bean yields that we're already thinking aren't going to be great anymore, you know.
What about some anomalies in corn?
You know, tar spot wasn't terrible, so I don't think that's going to have a huge impact on it. I have seen a few more northern corn leaf blight lesions than I typically see, but really overall, I don't think it's a terrible disease-wise year for corn.
If it was sprayed.
If it was sprayed, that's right. And I have walked, last week I was walking trials, treated, untreated. You can tell the difference. You absolutely can tell the difference.
Yeah, so we still big pro fungicide guys, particularly on corn. Even corn sprayed, we are finding tar spot. However, the tar spot reoccurrence came on after dent, which that crop is pretty much made. Now, untreated corn has a pretty good incidence of tar spot, so we expect some big differences of treated versus untreated if you have that.
Sure. The guys were reporting that to us as they came back. You know, hey, this was a field I saw a lot of tar spot in, and you know, and we knew we could tell the difference.
And so now that we've had, essentially in the last 40 days, we pretty much have had no rain. Not much to speak of. There's a few pockets watching here that might have rain, but mostly not. We are now starting to see dieback in corn.
Good point.
So pockets of corn, especially from drone images, and people are sending us pictures and calling us with questions, and we're just seeing pockets in fields of corn dying back or just look off color. And the culprit is it's just top dieback. That corn, it's done. It's thrown in the towel. So we've had 40 days of no rain, and that it's just thrown in the towel and it's all done.
Yeah, so what that is, guys, that's really dying down or drying down from the top of the plant down. So you might see green in the mid and brown up top. That's not necessarily disease. It's you know, some of that can contribute to it, but it's just, that's usually a spot where it's sandier or it's lighter soil. Heat and drought is what's really driving that.
In my opinion, I think it actually goes all the way back to June, and I've contended this all year long. I think June hurt us more than we probably want to give it credit for. July and early August kind of salvaged that a little bit. And now the last half's is dry, and so it's kind of reshaving the top end back off. So kind of to bring things home a little bit, just in general what we're seeing, a couple points. On yields checks in general, we're not seeing big monster numbers like 230s and 40s and 50s.
Right, those are the monsters.
We're seeing a lot of numbers maybe in the 170 to 200 range, and a few over 200, which is a little disappointing, but not unexpected, particularly with the finish that we had. So I think you should keep that in mind. What I think we're gonna see are surprises both ways. I think there will be some surprises to the high side and surprises to the low side because of how we ended this summer and what we're seeing in our checks. We're not being Debbie Downer and all negative Nelly, but we have a good crop. I think all in all, our crop is pretty good. I think it's better than a lot of folks in the Midwest that we know that have some really tough crops. We have a good crop. It's just maybe not exactly what we expect it to be, but there'll be some surprise fields, and then there's gonna be some disappointing fields. So just something to be thinking about moving forward. It's just observations we're seeing.
Wanted to produce this video for you guys to take a look at what the guys have been working on, what we think about yields, and here we are, we're hitting the field soon. So
we hope that there's a little bit of value to be gleaned from this. It's just, we try to give a year-end assessment of the excitement as we get into harvest, and we appreciate you watching. Hit the like button, follow our channel. We hope these bring value to you.
See you guys in the next one.
Locked and cocked and ready to rock. Check baby, 1, 2. Welcome friends of G&K. Do we got friends? Is that good and goofy?
That was great.